Okay, 132-18, Chief's memo.
Yes, Chair Waits, the Chief's non-concurrence memo, well, concurrence in part and non-concurrence in part for 132-18.
That's the second letter. Yes. Okay. So it's very hard to read that letter and understand it, given all the data that's in there. There's two questions that I have that I am not sure I'm clear on the answer. One is the RTCC information. There's some kind of policy that Mr. Larson brought up, Ms. Vandervenner brought up, about the information that's supposed to go to the officers. And I just described shortly before this about the address issue. Is that the reason that the RTCC issue is a non-issue in this case? Because they discovered this broken piece of it, and therefore the policy couldn't be followed? Is that correct?
Chair Waits, Member Fine. There are two pieces to that. Yes, the RTCC tracks by, at that time, tracked by address and location, and this was a transient family. And the second piece is that while it's been the goal of APD to have access to the CYFD portal, at the time of these calls that were in as a part of this investigation, officers of APD did not have access to the CYFD portal, so therefore there was no ability to go in and look at the CYFD history for this particular family.
Okay, so it's a vague answer, and I know I'm asking you for more clarification. What was preventing them from doing that? Was it on CYFD's side? Was it on APD's side? How come they couldn't get access to something they were supposed to have access to?
Chair Waits, Board Member Fine, I believe that they're still trying to work out the protocols for that access. I think it's something that they've been working towards. And as we discussed in the meeting with Deputy Chief Gonzalez and Commander Duran, there are now limited officers that will have access to the portal, and then they will train through the Crimes Against Children unit and then on down through the field staff to get that access.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you. The second question I have has to do with the evidence. The bone of contention that I still don't understand is why there are people who believe on one side that there was no value in the bloody underwear, and then other people who believe that how could that not have value, and was it the officer's call to do that? Can you explain that to me?
Chair Waits, Member Fine, on the date in question when officers were called to the school, this was 24 hours after the juvenile's clothes had been discarded and in the trash. The teacher who called recovered it from the trash. There was a cross dispatch of a CYFD investigator and an APD officer. The APD officer asked for assistance from the Crimes Against Children's unit, who went to the location of the youth and her parents, conducted a forensic interview, believed that there was no crime, so therefore the officer left the abandoned property at the school.
What's the cross thing? What is that you said there was
that means that CYFD and APD both responded to the scene.
At the same time?
At the same time.
And so CYFD didn't think it was necessary to keep it, and APD, both of them didn't think so?
That is correct.
Can you tell us why? Why did they think it wasn't?
Because there was no reasonable suspicion for a crime having been committed.
That's hard to swallow.
I would like to make a motion that the board request a review of that investigation, because we have this memo, but when we review the memo, it is like, it's sort of opaque because it doesn't, it kind of says concur, non-concur, concur, non-concur, but it's really difficult.
Like reading a list.
Yeah, it's basically impossible to understand what is being concurred and what is not being concurred, and like what the issue is and what the reasoning is and what the facts are. It's just like there's really no information in the memo. So I just can't understand it without the file, and so I would like to move that we request the file so that we can try to answer some of those questions for ourselves, because I just can't tell based on the memo that we have what the thinking is at all.
I think I'm willing to rely on the staff to share it with us. I just want to understand it, that's all. I don't understand it yet on this point.
I guess my question is, do you have the file?
Chair Waits, which file is Member Vandeventer referring to?
I'm referring to the IA file that the chief was relying upon when drafting this memo, because I think the CPOA has already reviewed it, but I think for us to be able to review it, we have to have a separate motion, and that's what I'm proposing, so that we can look at it.
Is it a motion?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay. Can that be available, Mr. Harness?
Chair Waits, I am not the records custodian for IA file, so that request has to go to the chief and have the record custodian grant that request.
Okay. So I think that's what we're asking for. Is that possible? Or not possible?
Well, the motion.
Well, we're going to carry the motion through, but okay. I just want to make sure that we have the opportunity to do that before we carry that motion through. So it's been motioned by Chelsea. I'm sorry, and second by Chantel. It's been seconded by Chantel and Ms. Valley. All in favor?
Aye.
So, Mr. Harness, can you make that request for our board, please?
Certainly.
Thank you. I don't know.
Too many shows.